Hey there, and welcome back to Behind Her Coffee Stories of Motherhood. If you've been listening and these stories feel familiar, I'd love for you to take a moment to follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if something here makes you feel seen, consider sharing it with another mom who might need to hear me too. Today's episode is called The Day I Realized the Village Was Gone. It's about the quiet moments so many of us experience when we understand that motherhood looks different from what we imagined, when the support we thought we would have doesn't quite show up the way we expected, and when we realize just how lonely this season can feel. So, pour yourself a cup of coffee, take a deep breath, and let's begin. When I became a stay at home mom, I knew it was going to be hard. I really did. But what I didn't realize was that knowing is very different than understanding. With my first baby, I felt like I had it mostly under control. It was exhausting, yes. Overwhelming, yes. But I managed. I had friends, I had family to call. I thought I had support. I thought I had a village. But support doesn't always mean understanding. Everyone had opinions. You should do this. You need to do that. Let your baby cry. Don't hold them so much. Why are you doing it that way? And instead of feeling helped, I started to feel judged. Instead of feeling heard, I felt corrected. Little by little, I realized that the people I thought would be in my corner weren't really in my corner the way I needed. Not because they didn't care, not because they were bad people, but because life gets easy. They had jobs, schedules, responsibilities. And I was home all day with a tiny human who couldn't talk back. That's when the loneliness started to creep in. And I felt like I was on an island. It wasn't my husband. He talks to me, he listens, he tries, he's a good dad and a great partner. But he isn't home with the kids all day. He doesn't live inside the constant mental load the way I do. And there are parts of motherhood that even the most supportive husband just can't fully understand the way another mother can. He hears me, but another mom gets me without needing explanation. When we first became parents, my husband and I thought we were on the same page about everything. You go into parenthood thinking, of course, we'll agree. But if you've never really talked about it, sometimes you realize you aren't. You surprise each other, you even surprise yourself. Things you swore you'd do as a parent suddenly change when you're actually living it. And we had to learn how to have those hard conversations about what motherhood and fatherhood really look like. Then I had a second baby and everything changed again. The dynamic changed, the exhaustion doubled. Suddenly, I wasn't just caring for one child anymore. I was running around with a toddler and a baby. Double the needs, double the emotions, double the work, and somehow still just one of me. Postpartum hit harder than I ever expected. And that's when the loneliness got louder. Around that time, I started seeing a therapist, not because something was terribly wrong, but because I needed someone to talk to, someone to listen without judgment, someone to hold space for everything I was feeling. It helped, but I also realized something that hurt a little. What I really wanted wasn't an appointment. I wanted a friend on the couch with a coffee. I wanted another mom to look at me and say, yeah, me too. The people I thought I could call weren't answering as much anymore. Not for any bad reason. They weren't trying to abandon me. They were busy living their lives, but I was home with babies, needing conversation, needing connection. needing someone to check in on me. And instead, most of my days were spent talking to a newborn and a toddler who didn't really understand. Then something else started happening. People would look at me and say, "You look overwhelmed." And they meant it kindly, but what they didn't understand was that it wasn't my kids that overwhelmed me. It was the lack of support, the silence, the empty space where the village was supposed to be. No one, I'm going to say that again, no one is required to be here for me. I know that. Everyone has their own life, their own responsibilities, but it would be nice. It would be nice to feel chosen, checked on, remembered. I had a moment once at a kids' activity. I walked in and saw a group of mothers standing together, talking and laughing like they'd known each other forever. And I remember watching and feeling a lump in my throat. I had never felt so sad, not for them, but for me, for the friend I didn't have standing next to me, for the conversation I wish I was a part of. That's when it really hit me. This is how lonely motherhood can feel. Everyone asks, "How are the kids? Can I see the babies? What are they up to?" But almost no one asks, "How are you?" And little by little, you start to feel like you're disappearing into the background of your own life. Motherhood has been my greatest achievement, truly. But sometimes it also feels like everyone is quick to point out what you're doing wrong instead of encouraging what you're doing right. I went into motherhood believing I would have a village, that there would be people checking in, showing up, sitting beside me in the messy moments. Instead, it felt like everyone slowly turned their attention elsewhere. And I kept thinking, what happened to the village? Isn't isn't that what we were promised? All I really wanted was a simple text, call, "Hey, how are you doing?" Not, "How are the kids?" Not send pictures, just, "How are you?" I wish I could say it got easier. Some days it has. Some days it hasn't. Some days I still feel that same quiet loneliness, but I'm still here, still showing up, still loving my kids with everything I have. And maybe that's why this space matters so much. Because even if the village looks different than what we imagined, we can still create pieces of it for each other. We can still be the voices that say, "You're not crazy. You're not alone. I feel it too." If you've ever felt like the support you expected never really came, if you've ever sat in the house full of people and felt invisible, if you've ever wished for just one person to really understand, I see you and you belong here. Thanks for listening to Behind Her Coffee, Stories of Motherhood, where the stories are honest. The coffee, oh my goodness, the coffee is necessary. And no mom has to feel completely alone. A Coffee with Karmin Production.